Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm just going to do some read-throughs of the Dungeon Master's Guide on particular sections so that you can use this as just a kind of an aid to understanding information. I always find it's easier to listen to someone almost reading through like an audiobook of situations, just to reinforce information in your head. So we'll start with combat. Encounters, combat and initiative. Combat is divided into 1 minute period melee rounds or simply rounds in order to have reasonably manageable combat. Manageable applies both to the actions of the combatants and to the actual refereeing of such melees. It would be no great task to devise an elaborate set of rules for highly complex individual combats with rounds of but a few seconds length. It is not in the best interest of an adventure game, however, to delve too deeply into cut and thrust, parry and riposte. The location of a hit or wound, the sort of damage done, sprains, breaks and dislocations are not the stuff of heroic fantasy. The reasons for this are manifold. As has been detailed, hit points are not actually a measure of physical damage by and large, as far as characters and some other creatures as well are concerned. Therefore, the location of hits and the type of damage caused are not germane to them. While this is not true with respect to most monsters, it is neither necessary nor particularly useful. Lest some purists immediately object, consider the many charts and tables necessary to handle this sort of detail, and think about how area effect spells would work. In like manner, consider all of the nasty things which face adventurers as the rules stand. Are crippling disabilities and yet more ways to meet instant death desirable in an open-ended episodic game, where participants seek to identify with lovingly detailed and developed player characters' personae? Not likely. Certain death is as undesirable as a giveaway campaign. Combat is a common pursuit in the vast majority of adventures, and the participants in the campaign deserve a chance to exercise intelligent choice during such confrontations. As hit points dwindle, they can opt to break off the encounter and attempt to flee. With complex combat systems which stress so-called realism and feature hit location, special damage, and so on, either this option is severely limited or the rules are highly slanted towards favouring the player characters at the expense of their opponents. Such rules as double damage and critical hits must cut both ways, in which case the life expectancy of player characters will be shortened considerably, or the monsters are being grossly misrepresented and unfairly treated by the system. I am certain you can think of many other such rules. 1 minute rounds are devised to offer the maximum of choice with a minimum of complication. This allows the DM and the players the best of both worlds. The system assumes much activity during the course of each round. Envision, if you will, a fencing, boxing or karate match. During the course of 1 minute of such competition, there are numerous attacks which are unsuccessful, feints, manoeuvring and so forth. During a 1 minute melee round, many attacks are made, but some are mere feints, while some are blocked or parried. One or possibly several have the chance to actually score damage. For such chances, the dice are rolled, and if the to-hit number is equaled or exceeded, the attack was successful, but otherwise it too was avoided, blocked, parried, or whatever. Damage scored to characters or certain monsters is actually not substantially physical, a mere nick or scratch, until the last handful of hit points are considered. It is a matter of wearing away the endurance, the luck, the magical protections. With respect to most monsters, such damage is in fact more physically substantial, although as with adjustments in armor class rating for speed and agility, there are also similar additions in hit points. So while a round of combat is not a continuous series of attacks, it is neither just a single blow and counter-blow affair. The opponents spar and move, seeking the opportunity to engage when an opening in the enemy's guard presents itself. Because of the relatively long period of time represented by the round, Dexterity, agility, speed, and quickness, is represented by a mere favorable armor class rating rather than as a factor in which opponent strikes the first blow. Likewise, weapon length and relative speed factors are not usually a consideration. See initiative and charging below, however. The system of AD&D combat maximizes the sense of hand-to-hand combat and the life and death character of the melee without undue complication. Because of this, you, the DM, are enabled to conduct such portions of a game without endless resort to charts, tables, procedures, clarifications, and over-lengthy time requirements. Players, on the other hand, will not become bored with endless dice rolling and rules consulting, but at the same time will have a reasonable chance to seek escape for their characters should the affair go badly. The steps for encountering combat are as follows. 1. Determine if either of both parties are surprised. 2. Determine the distance, if known, between the parties. If both parties are unsurprised or equally surprised, determine initiative for that round. 4. Determine the results of whatever actions are decided upon by the party with initiative. A. Avoid engagement. Flee, slam door, use magic to escape, etc., if possible. B. Attempt to parley. C. Await action by other party. D. Discharge missiles or magical device attacks, or cast spells or turn undead. E. Close to striking range or charge. F. Set weapons against possible opponent's charge. G. Strike blows with weapons to kill or subdue. H. Grapple or hold. 5. Determine the results of whatever actions are decided upon by the party which lost the initiative, as per A through H above. 6. Continue each melee round by determination of distance, initiative, and action until melee ends due to fleeing, inability to continue, or death of one or both parties. Surprise. The term surprise is basically self-explanatory. A surprise party is caught unawares or unprepared. In such circumstances, the non-surprised or less surprised party has an immediate advantage, which is reflected in the granting of one or more segments of initiative, during which the active, non or less surprised party can take actions for A through H, wholly or partially, depending on several modifying factors. The surprise segment is 6 seconds. Avoiding, parlaying, awaiting the action of the surprised, missile discharge, and setting of weapons, typically spears or spearing types of polearms, are possible. Most spells cannot be cast in a single segment, although first-level magic user illusionist spells are usually but one segment long, as are some other spells, and these spells are possible to use in a surprise segment. Other longer casting time spells can only be begun in the first segment of surprise. Similarly, the distance separating the parties may be too great to close during a single segment. Even by charging and melee striking or grappling might not be possible. However, during the surprise segment or segments, the surprise party is unable to react in any way, so the latter actions might be possible. Surprise is determined by rolling a 6-sided die for each party concerned, modifying the result by using the most favorable member of the party concerned, i.e. a ranger surprised only on a roll of 1 will represent the whole of a group of other character types. Note, however, the effect of dexterity as detailed below. The same holds for mixed types of monsters. If surprise is indicated for both parties concerned, the party which is less surprised subtracts its result from the result of the greater to find the number of segments the latter are inactive. Nonetheless, it is possible for both parties to be surprised equally, with surprise thus having no effect. Surprise is usually expressed as a 2 in 6 chance for all parties concerned, i.e. a 6-sided die is rolled with a 1 or 2 indicating surprise. Some monsters are more capable of surprising foes than the normal 2 in 6 probability, and some cannot be surprised as easily, so they have a reduced probability, 1 in 6, 1 in 8, etc. Each one of surprise equals 1 segment, 6 seconds of time lost to the surprise party, and during the lost time, the surprising party can freely act to escape or attack or whatever. If both parties are surprised, then the effect is negated or reduced. Surprise dice difference 0, lost segments 0. Surprise dice difference 1, lost segments 1. Difference 2, lost segments 2. Difference 3, lost segments 3. Assume the party of characters, moving silently and visibly, come upon a monster. They have four of 6 chances to surprise, and the monster has 2 in 6. A 6-sided die is rolled for the party, another for the monster. Both sides could be surprised, neither could be surprised, or either could be surprised. This is shown in the table below. Parties die 3 to 6, monsters die 5 or 6, surprise effect none. Parties die 1, monsters die 1, surprise effect both surprised. Parties die 2, monsters die 2, surprise effect both surprised. Parties die 1 or 2, monsters die 5 or 6, party surprised. Parties die 3 to 6, monsters die 1 to 4, monster surprised. Parties die 1, monsters die 2 to 4, monster surprised. Parties die 2, monsters die 1, party surprised. Example. Party A is surprised on a roll of 1 or 2, while Party B is surprised only on a roll of 1. A rolls 2 and B rolls 1, so A is inactive due to surprise for 1 segment. Had B rolled a 2, it would not have been surprised at all, and A would have been inactive for 2 segments. Example. Party A is surprised only on a roll of 1, but Party B surprises on a 5 and 6, which is a D6, 1 to 5. Due to its nature or a particular set of circumstances which the DM has noted are applicable to this encounter, the favourable factor normally accruing to a Party A is 1, i.e. parties of this sort are normally surprised on 1 or 2, but this party is surprised only on a 1. Therefore, they have an additional 1 in 6 to their favour and not 50% better chance. Party B will surprise them on a 5 and 6 less 1 in 6, or 4 in 6. Assume A rolls a 4, so it will be surprised for 4 segments, unless B rolls a 1, in which case A party's inactive period will be only 3 segments, or if B rolls a 2, in which case surprise will last for only 2 segments. 4 minus 1 equals 3, 4 minus 2 equals 2. Because the party surprised is relatively inactive, the surprising party will be able to attempt telling blows during each segment of surprise, as if the segment were an entire round. That is, a fighter will be able to attack twice during a normal round of combat, will be able to do so twice during each surprise segment, so dice are rolled for hit determination accordingly. Even if distance prevents striking with weapons, the discharge of arrows, bolts, or handheld weapons is permissible at 3 times the normal rate, providing the weapon, missiles are ready, otherwise at normal rates for rounds. Once surprise segments are over, melee proceeds normally on a round-by-round basis. Prior detection negates the possibility of surprise. Thus, magical devices can possibly negate surprise by detection of thoughts or intentions. Noise can negate surprise considerations, whether the sound is the normal progress of the party or the effect of a fruitless attempt to open a door. Light can spoil the chance of surprise. The particular condition of a monster can likewise negate any chance of it being surprised. In any event, it is of utmost importance to realize that surprise can be, and often is, unilateral. That is, one party can be surprised while the other, somehow aware of the other's presence, can not be so taken. In all such cases, merely roll for the party which is surprised to the condition and do not roll for the other. Dexterity reaction in surprise. This factor, Dexterity Table 1 Player's Handbook, affects both surprise and mutual surprise situations. In the former case, the penalty, -3 to -1, or bonus, +1 to +3, allows the surprise party on an individual basis only the opportunity to mitigate the condition. That is, if there is a dexterity penalty, the individual will suffer that many additional segments of time in a surprise state. On the other hand, if the dexterity bonus applies, the individual negates that many segments of surprise as far as the individual only is concerned. Dexterity reaction bonus for surprise never creates surprise in an opponent party or an individual with regard to its penalty factor. It adds to existing surprise or detracts from it, and only as far as the particular individual is concerned, not for any other individuals concerned. As DM, you will undoubtedly decide that there are situations where penalty and or bonus do not apply, such as when an individual is otherwise prepared or when the individual is in the act of pulling chainmail over his or her head. Such an adjudication is properly within the scope of refereeing the game, and you should feel free to deny either case as you see fit. Factors contributing to surprise. When one side or another is surprised, this general term can represent a number of possible circumstances. In the first place, it simply represents actual surprise. That is, the opponent was unprepared for the appearance or attack. The reason for this can be eating, sleeping, waste elimination, attention elsewhere, no weapon ready, etc. While each possible cause of surprise could be detailed, with a matrix and factor of time for recovery from the condition calculated to a nicety, the overall result would not materially add to the game. In fact, the undue complication would detract from the smooth flow of play. The second factor represented in surprise is morale. What is the effect of being taken unaware and or unprepared upon the surprise party? Reactions are not only hampered by circumstances of physical nature. Panic or fear reactions to situations take their toll. Again, this is all subsumed in the single surprise roll determination for each side, and in the simple set of rules governing what transpires when one or the other is surprised. Finally, the surprising group must be able to assess the situation and act upon it. So surprise doesn't mean that the party with the advantage has automatically achieved victory and triumph. What is gained is the opportunity to act as is seen best in the circumstances, be it to flee the encounter, get the drop on the surprised, or attack with spells, missiles, or blows. Of course, the other side is then forced to react to whatever surprising side has chosen to do. Distance. When encounters occur, the distance between concerned parties will be 5 inches to 10, d6 plus 4, subject to the following modifying factors. 1. Line of sight. If this is unobstructed and light is involved, the distance possible for determination of another party present is virtually infinite. It could likewise be sharply restricted due to obstructions. 2. Noise. If one party is making considerable noise which is discernible by the other party, the latter will have the options of fleeing or concealment, the former negating the encounter, the latter allowing distance to be 1 inch to 4 inches before discovery by the noisy party. 3. Actual area. If the encounter party is in a small area, distance between the two can be no greater than the maximum distance possible for the discovery of one by the other, i.e. opening a door into a 20 by 20 foot room will mean the distance between the two parties can be under 10 foot, 10 foot, or thereabouts, or 20 feet. So it's die 6, 1 to 2 striking distance, 3 to 4, 10 feet distance, 5 to 6, 20 foot distance. 4. Planned or unplanned appearance. The sudden precipitation of one party upon the other due to any of a number of factors, teleportation, dimension door spell, other magical means, a shoot, etc., will cause distance similar to that found when actual area is a factor. 5. Surprise. Surprise can only be a factor in close encounter situations. If either or both parties are surprised, the distance must be either 1 inch to 3 inches, or it must be less or as determined under the actual area modifier. Thus, if the actual area were 40 by 60 room, if surprise exists, the distance between the parties will be 1 to 3 inches. 6. Light. The illumination factor or visual capability of the concerned parties will affect encounter distance as follows. A light source reliance limits the encounter distance to twice the normal vision radius of the source, 2 times the radius of the light source. B. Infravision and/or ultravision operate only to the stated limit of their range and limit encounter distance accordingly. Initiative. Surprise gives initiative to none or less surprised party. It is otherwise determined when an encounter occurs, and at the start of each combat round. It indicates which of the two parties will act or react. Again, a d6 is rolled, and the scores for the two parties are compared. It is recommended that such initiative rolls be made openly unless there is some reason to hide that of the encountered monster party, such as special bonuses which would be unknown to the player characters involved. The higher of the two rolls is said to possess the initiative for that melee round. While it is not accurate to roll 1 die for all the individuals comprising each party, it is a convenient and necessary expedient. Separate rolls could be made for each member of 2 small groups, for instance, but what happens to this simple, brief determination if one party consists of 9 characters and 6 henchmen, and the other of 7 giants and 19 direwolves? Let us say, possession of an initiative allows the individuals to take action or reaction as desired according to the foregoing lists of alternatives, and as detailed hereafter. The dexterity or speed of individuals or weapons is not considered in the 1 minute round except as hereafter noted. Initiative for a creature with multiple attack routines. When one or more creatures involved in combat are permitted to use their attack routines twice or more often during the round, then the following initiative determinants are employed. When the attack routine may be used twice, then allow the side with the advantage to attack first and last with those members of its group who have this advantage. If it is possessed by both parties, the initiative roll determines which group strikes first and third, which group strikes second and last. If one or both groups have members allowed only one attack routine, it will always fall in the middle of the other attacks, the order determined by dicing for initiative when necessary. If one party has the ability to employ its attack routines thrice, then the other party dices for initiative to see if it or the multi-routine group strikes first in the midpoint of the round. Extrapolate for routines which occur 4 or more times in a round by following the method above. Note that a routine is the attack or attacks usual to the creature concerned, i.e. a weapon or weapons for a character, a claw, bite routine for a bear, with incidental damage assessed as it occurs, the hug for example. A 12th level fighter is allowed to attack routines twice in every odd-numbered melee round, for example, and this moves up to 3 per round if a haste spell is cast upon the fighter. Damage from successful attacks is assessed when the 2-hit score is made and damage determined, the creature so taking damage having to survive it in order to follow the attack routine. Ties. It will often occur that initiative determination results in a tie. This merely indicates that each party has equal chances for acting and that attacks occur simultaneously. In cases of equal initiative score, damage accrues to both groups regardless of what is inflicted. Inflicting damage. Except as noted under ties above, Damage or the general results of some attack routines, such as turning of undead or casting of a slow spell, is inflicted upon the reacting party prior to allowing these creatures their portion of action in the melee round. Thus, some of the members of the party which does not have the initiative might be caught in a web spell, others might be turned by a cleric, and some damaged or killed destroyed by other spells, missile discharge, and blows from handheld weapons before they are ever have a chance to themselves act. The reacting party's action could be an attempt to flee, cast spells, hurl missiles, or melee. It does not matter. If the reacting party does not use attack routines, for example, the damage so inflicted will be assessed immediately. This could well mean that if they win the initiative roll next round, they can attack a second time, doing damage accordingly before the opponent party can act. Encounter reactions. Any intelligent creature which can be conversed with will react in some way to the character that is speaking. Reaction is determined by rolling percentile dice, adjusting the score for charisma and applicable loyalty adjustments as if the creature were a henchman of the character speaking, and the modified score of the percentile dice is compared to the table below. Adjusted dice score 0-1 to 5, violently hostile immediate attack, 0-6 to 25, hostile immediate action, 26 to 45, uncertain but 55% prone towards negative, 46 to 55, neutral, uninterested, uncertain, 56 to 75, uncertain but 55% prone towards positive, 76 to 95, friendly, immediate action, 96 to 100 or greater, enthusiastically friendly, immediate acceptance. Avoiding. It is always possible to flee from an undecided confrontation if the other party is surprised. It is never possible to flee from an encounter where the opponent party is in striking range. See breaking off from melee below. A party can always flee an encounter if it gains the first initiative. Whether or not the opponent party will follow in pursuit of the fleeing party depends on the following factors. 1. What you, the Dungeon Master, have stated in your key concerning the party, if applicable. This is first and foremost in all cases. 2. What the stated characteristics of the creatures involved are. That is, if player characters do they say they will pursue, or if monsters, does their description say they will always seek to pursue? 3. Obvious deterrents to pursuit, such as a pool of flaming oil, a secured portal, etc., will modify monster behavior accordingly. 4. Fleeing party behavior and or possessions noted by the opponent party will modify pursuit desire. 5. Relative speed will cause the pursuing party to cease fruitless chase if they are obviously being outdistanced, except if the pursuers are player characters who must state they are halting such chase. 6. Otherwise 50% of the time, d6, 1 to 3 equals pursuit, 4 to 6 equals break off from pursuit. Parlaying. Upon encountering another party, the party with initiative can always elect to attempt some form of communication. This can be a friendly gesture, a throwing down of arms, offering of treasure, or some spoken word or phrase. Just what this effect will be is determinable only by the DM considering the prevailing circumstances. It is safe to say that a group of elves attempting to parley with a red dragon will find their efforts generally unsuccessful, unless they also have some obvious advantage which the dragon is aware of. It is common for player characters to attack first, parley afterwards. It is recommended that you devise encounters which penalize such action, so as to encourage parleying attempts, which will usually be fruitless, of course. Awaiting action. This is self-explanatory, not an attempt to parley, but neither an attack. It is seldom utilized by experienced adventurers. Missile discharge. This is the usual loosing of arrows and bolts, hurling of axes, hammers, javelins, darts, etc. It also includes the hurling of rocks by giants, manticore tail spike throwing, and so on. It can occur simultaneously with a magical device attack, spell casting, or turning of undead. Magical device and spell attacks can negate the effects of or damage some missiles, i.e. arrows fired off simultaneously with the discharge of a fireball spell, or a javelin hurled into an ice storm, or a dwarven hammer tossed at an opponent, struck by a fireball or lightning bolt. As referee, you will have to determine the final results according to circumstances. This is not difficult using the item saving throw table. Likewise, discharge of missiles into an existing melee is easily handled. It is permissible, of course, and the results might not be too incompatible with the desires of the discharging party. Assign probabilities to each participant in the melee or target group according to sheer numbers. In the case of participants of varying size, use half value for size S, small, normal value for size M, medium, and 1.5 value for size L, large creatures, which are not too much larger than man size. Total the values for each group and ratio one over the other. If side A has 4 man-sized participants and side B has 3 smaller than man-sized participants, and size 1 L bugbear, the ratio is 4:3. Then, according to the direction of the missile discharge, determine hits by using the same ratio. If 7 missiles were loose, 4 would have a chance to hit side A, 3 side B. In cases where the ratio does not match the number of missiles, convert it into a percentage chance. 1/7 equals 14% or 15%, depending on whether the missiles are coming from ahead of side A, 14%, or from behind, 15%. Thus, 4/7 equals 56% or 60% chance per the missile that it will hit side A. The minor difference represents the fact that there will be considerable shifting and maneuvering during combat, which will tend to expose both opponents to fire on a near equal basis. Such missiles must then be assigned, by situation or by random determination, to target creatures, to a hit determination made, and damage assessed for those which do hit. Large missiles will be treated in the same fashion. If one opponent group is significantly larger than the other, accurate missiles which have a small area of effect can be directed at the larger opponent group with great hope of success. You may assign a minor chance of the missile striking a friend if you wish, but this writer, for instance, always allows archery hits to hit a giant or a similar creature engaged against a human or smaller opponent. Missiles from giants are approximately 1 inch in diameter, as are those from small catapults. Those from large catapults and trebuchets are approximately 2 foot in diameter.